So what we're going to do is, again, you're going to be rendering your curve geometry, okay? So your doubly curved surfaces, you're not going to be taking your triangulated. So the idea behind the triangulated is sort of, yeah, of course it's a dumbed down version. We know that. One thing is we maybe start to like in the future if we do these, and it's funny, I'm actually trying to work this technique into where we take these, and then from there, if we make them out of ABS, we can shrink wrap them. And after we shrink wrap them, we start to get like a cavity surface that's going to get infilled with expandable foam. So these things start becoming like rigid shells. So I'm working on like large scale versions of these. So we'll see. I mean, the interesting thing is like how these things get dumbed down. So we're going to turn off our triangulated. We don't even need our lines. So if we don't want to, for our curves, we can hide those. So I'm just using the hide command. So we're just working with that. If we look at rendered, we have the pattern already put on here. And again, that is by layer. And we're using camo. So we're using this is all the stuff that we went over already. And we want to change this to view-based, right? So we change the mapping to view-based, so it does sort of the shrink wrap, or sort of the... Now, because of the way the software, it's not mimicking exactly what we have for like the projected lines. So this is a representation of what's happening. We would work different ways. There's different ways where we can work this into getting it precise, but I think this is the easy task, right? So make sure you have your pattern view-based. Okay, so if we hit OK, and then we're going to start setting up a view, right? And then I have, I'm also going to let's create a circle. Because I'm sitting at 0, oh, almost. Then we can patch that. Now, I don't want that to be on the same, so we'll make a new layer, call it ground. Change that to ground. Change that to ground, sorry, our surface. And, oops. For ground, we can just use white, that'll be fine. So we can try to get closer, right? So this is representing our ground. And then we go ahead and make our camera. So we're creating two views. One's going to be a camera view. The other will be an isometric where we're going to use a cutaway. So let's just set up the first one. I did upload people. Let's pause real quick. So after you downloaded that, put them somewhere, we're going to use insert. Then we can go find that file. So people, Rhino. This individual objects, we can just plop them somewhere. That looks like it has its own ground. So you can see where we start dealing with the scale. So make sure you, when you do this, make sure you save this as a different file, okay? Because we're going to start scaling this up. So these people, I assume, are to the right scale. If I take a quick distance, that's coming up to about 74 inches. So let's switch this. If we switch this to feet, we want to scale them. So if you switch it to feet, make sure you hit scale. So it scales them. That's about 6. That's a tall person. Okay. If we go to units again, if you want to be in feet with fractional, I guess when people wear shoes, right, they get a little bit taller. So 6'1". Okay, and there's all different positions. So you can see our piece is really small, right? So this is where you have to start thinking about scale. How big is your piece? And we've done that already, right? So I'm going to do that again. You just Control Z that. So we can do, if we know we want this thing to be like 20 feet tall, and we can do a reference, and we can say 20 feet. So that's about 20 feet tall. Okay? And then we can grab our people. So, yes, I am. So let's see where are those people? Oh, they're up here. So they're there. So go through these people. You know, there's all different urban types. Let's pick some fashionable urban types there. And we can stage them a little better, but let's just get them there for now. And then we're going to go to View, Set Camera, Place Camera and Target. So we place the camera and target. Okay, so that's our view. Then we go to Properties, switch this to Perspective, and then we'll change the focal length. Sorry. So maybe like 25. Then we can start zooming in. So we can start to zoom in. All right. Also like using the pan. And we can also just, rotate, 3D rotate. All right. So we're going to set up one view. And again, you can change what the scale is. Person really tall, or did I actually? The other thing we can do is, while we're in this view, if we hit F6, it'll turn on the camera so we can see where we are. And I actually like just to use the pan. So if you want to get eye level, this person's a little short. I don't know if that was a kid or something, but you might be throwing off our... If you go about eye level, everybody's eyes should be around the same height, when you're at a perspective. Now you can see this says top. It's not top anymore. We go to View, Set View, Named Views. We can save this, call it like Cam 01. So now it's called Cam 01. So if we want to switch one to a top view, so true top. That guy's pretty far away. Let's get him a lot closer. Okay. And if we switch this to rendered, we'll start to get a little bit of a feel of what that looks like. I'm not sure why we lost. It could be a video card issue. So now we're going to go to rendering, render properties. And there's a couple things we want to make sure that's on. This will be off by default. So if we see how different that looks, if I turn this on, this creates, Skylight creates the ambient, inclusion. And then we can do a custom sort of environment. Or make like a custom environment. You can just leave No custom environment for now. But as soon as we hit OK, it gets this sort of ambient inclusion, right? You see that? So let's go back to render properties. The next thing we want to do is look at our output. Our output will go to custom. We want to be square because we're doing square. And we can lock that aspect ratio. I thought we can lock it once we have it in there. Guess not. So we basically want, so how do I tell what my resolution is? Well, if we're printing out 24 by 24 and we want to be minimum 200 dpi, what would that be? What does this need to be? 4800, right? So we take 24 times 200. Okay, this is going to take a while to render, but we can try it. All right. Now, while we're test rendering, we shouldn't do that, right? So let's change that. Yeah, it won't let me lock. It's funny, it always. So let's just do it at 1000 by 1000 because we're test rendering, right? Because we're gonna add a light source. We're not done yet. So if we hit the render button, which is here, okay, I can't find. Let's see. I think I can't find my razzle dazzle. Oh, we'll have to find it. Oh no, I can. So you see, it really produces this really nice sort of. Yeah. Person like has a backpack or something. Okay, so it produces that nice effect. Now we can see our projects maybe floating, maybe a little bit, maybe not. I think it's hitting the ground. We can adjust if we want to, but actually it's not floating. We're gonna get some shadows next. So I didn't like the way the camo looked. So oops, sorry. So if we want to manipulate this, we can, I have it rotated right now. We can change the scale of it. Re-render it. And again, it looks a lot different than what's in there. Just making it a little bit more vertical. It's actually doing a good job, sort of. Right, it really starts to read like an edge now. Losing the curvature. Let's look at a couple. These computers are pretty fast, so they'll render pretty good. So let's go larger. Let's go with something like that. Okay, so say we're happy with that. The next thing I'm going to introduce, I'm going to go on to a top view. Actually, let's go to a front view. I'm going to go to lighting, and I'm going to use a directional light. So with directional light, you click where you want to be, which is here, and then where you want to point from. And then we'll go to a top view. Yeah, you always have to take care. It looks like it snaps, so let's do that. Let's do that again. Let's say 0, 0, 0, and then we can go. I don't know why it's going all the way there though. That's right. We can move it. So, we can, if we're not happy with that position, sometimes you want to be a little bit more the shadow's not going. Get a little bit more of the light there, potentially. Now, the other thing, this light's going to be way too intense, so we want to go to Properties. And then if we select the light, we can decrease the intensity. And then we'll try it, lowering it, and then we'll test render it. So we get our shadows, but we don't want to nuke it, because then we'll lose a lot of that ambient inclusion. But we'll start to get some shadows. So maybe that's still too light. Let's try 30. It's looking pretty good. And then again, if you're not happy with the angle, you could also rotate the view, but you can also rotate the project, right?
The final rendering would be this.
Sorry?
The final rendering would be this.
Yeah, we one, and then, well, that's one of them, so there's two. This does a pretty good job flattening it. So let's look at going a little bit more head on. So you're producing one of these roofs. Let's rotate that. Again, that might be better. So since we're doing one view, make sure it's your best. Well, we're doing two views, but make sure this one is. And I'm just gonna, let's try kicking this down actually. I'm a picky person. I think this might be the winner. Okay, so say we're happy with that. Okay. So we're going to render this out. So we would change the rendering settings. Render properties. Change this to 4800. by 4800. Hit OK. Render it. Zoom. All right, so here it is. So you want to save this. And I like saving them as targas. Store it on the desktop. Okay, guys, pay attention. We're recording. And let's see if it works. Typically, not getting any options for the targa. Guess it won't matter. Let's try TIFF. No. They have all these post effects. I don't know if they really do anything. Depth of field is always a nice one. But you have to have that set up probably. Curves. This might be cool that you show the curves of like. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, that might take a while. You see him? I don't see him yet. I think it's thinking. So yeah, these things aren't obviously doing anything because you do have to spend time, and we're not going to do that. But exposure can control. We can do it also in Photoshop, but sometimes maybe just looking at the exposure. Now there is an alpha. I'm surprised we can't. Yeah, it doesn't create one. All right, so this is the exposure. Sorry, that's. So yeah, we'll do it all in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and open up Photoshop. We can open up that TIFF. So here we can see our image. Now the one thing is we're doing this 24 by 24. I want you guys to focus. I'm holding down the Shift key. So we are going to crop in on this a little bit. That's probably too tight. So we're going to lose a little bit of our resolution, but that's fine. So it's a little bit more in line, and then image, adjust, brightness, contrast. So this is where we can start to give this thing a little bit more punch. And don't forget, what you see on your screen is always going to be a lot brighter than what's printed. Legacy is a little bit more aggressive. But if there's a balance, maybe it's like right where the background starts to go. Okay. So the edge is there. And then we want to resize this, image size. We don't want to resample, so this is unchecked. We just make it 24. And you can see it's about 173. This is fine. That's enough pixels. You don't want to go under 150 typically. Okay. And then we save this as a JPEG or even a TIFF. And this is render 01, okay? The next thing now, and then we'll print that, okay? So we'll print those probably like on the 24, like 24 by 48, you know? We'll put them, we can even put them maybe together. To print them both at the same time. So the next thing now is to do the cutaway. All right. So I'm going to go to a top view, And I want to decide where I'm going to sort of take this thing. So I'm going to go to view, set view. I'm picking isometric. And we're going to either do, maybe we're going to do the south, that's southwest. Let's try, yeah, southwest might be good. Let's try view, set view, northeast. Also might be good. And we can sort of manipulate that after. So we might look at this opening. So my advice is maybe try to think about where the openings are. So we know where the openings are. And this is where we're going to sort of slice it. So what you're going to do is select, what you want to do is select your surfaces. If we hit F6, it'll turn off the camera. One way is select that and hit invert. And then we're going to go to surface, plane, cutting plane. And then what that's going to allow us to do is draw a line like where we want to cut. And we're going to try to cut through the openings. So I know the openings are like sort of right there. And this isn't cutting. What it's doing is just making a cutting like plane, okay? That we can still manipulate. But then we can use the split command. Okay? And we're going to split. If we go into our top view, down here, switch that back to wireframe. We want to select what we want to split, so you want to make sure you select all the lines. Hit enter, and then you want to select the cutting object and hit enter. So what this does, if I delete this now, it splits this. So we have these pieces that we can hide or delete. So I'll just hide them for now. So again, use save as. Okay, so there's our sort of cut. All right, so it's like you're cutting the apple, you know. And now we might want to position this thing a little bit better. So I don't want to, typically, we set up this view, set view, isometric. Oops, let's do it to that one. View, set view, isometric. We can set up that view, but we want to move maybe our geometry. So let's go to view, set view, northwest. Let's use shaded. So that's the backside. So view, set view. So that's pretty good. That's the southeast, all right? Now there's also like a little piece here that's hanging out. We can also maybe take that off. So maybe we reposition our, so this is where you might want to do a save as. This is where we want to put a person inside also, hanging out. Not necessary. But this is going to be the other view we're going to do, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my, I'm not going to keep it at the high res. I'm going to test render this. What I'm going to do is make two renderings, one with the outside with the pattern and one with no pattern, and we're going to put the two together. So, it's close. Maybe we're just going to pan this over, get it in the center. I'm just going to render this at just render it at 2000. I won't go that high. So sorry, once that's done, we save that. Then I'm going to come here and change. I'm actually going to select this stuff and change the... I'm just going to change it real quick to ground. Now you don't want to change the view or anything, all right? You just want to re-render it then. So don't like zoom in and out. Just change the material. So we save that. So this will be rendered to maybe int. And then we go to Photoshop. So pay attention on this one, guys. We open both of them. What we're going to do then is come in here, and I like to use the polygonal lasso. You can use the, you could probably use, I don't use the magnetic lasso, but I guess because we have a good contrast there, I might actually do a good job. Oh, get back there. I think we can maybe pull that on. Oh, didn't do a good job there. Oh. Clean some of that up. Okay, then we do an edit, copy, go back to here, edit, paste. And then we can, since we have that in its own layer, we can do a brightness contrast on that. Okay, and then we can turn that into its own layer. I always like duplicate, like if you're gonna mess with stuff, I do always like duplicating to have the original underneath. And then you save these as PSDs. And then recrop this, get a little better job. Holding down the shift key. More squarish. And then image size. So I rendered this too low, so it's below what we want. And then to finish this off, I'm going to take this, I'm going to hold down the control key and click on it, and it'll give us the selection again. I'm then going to go to paths, and then I'm going to go and say make work path and tolerance to, and what that does is makes a path around there. See that? It's a little hard to see, but it's like making like something that we find in Illustrator. Then if I pick a color, let's go with hot pink, we can go to our brush, give it a brush size, and actually give it a hardness, a certain pixel size. And then if I come here, I can say stroke path, and then say brush, hit OK, and it'll stroke it and give us sort of like a highlighted edge. Let's look at our brush again. Let's not make it opaque. Let's make it 100. It was an opacity on there. So let's track it again. Stroke path. Okay. And then if we go back to layers, we can, we can even get rid of that if we want. Don't need it anymore. And then we got to figure out what's open and what's not open. So I think that's an opening there. And the mistake I did, I forgot to put it on its own layer, so let's go to history. So you want to put it on its own layer. So it's on make path. You want to make a new layer. Then you want to draw the brush stroke. Go back to layers. Since it's on its own layer now, I can delete that. And say that's the only opening that way. Okay. So that's our section. And if you don't like hot pink, whatever color you can put, as long as it has a color, we can manipulate the color.
What was the name of that? Or where'd you find that stroke command?
So you draw, you have the selection, and you go to paths, and you say make path. So if we can take a square here and say make work path, and it makes a path. Oops. And we can actually pick the path and move it and stuff, but that's the idea. All right. Maybe we'll print these. Let's see how mine look. Bottom right corner, you'll make a text level and put some text on here. Put your name, ARC 173, okay? If you want to put Manavis, that's fine. That's maybe too small. I don't want it big. I do want it small. And just make sure that's on both of them. Okay. You can also, I'm at maybe so it's not so overpowering, just really ghost it out. Okay. Make sure they're both on the same position. Okay. And we can say this as a JPEG. And that's what we'll print. So you're coming in with these, okay, ready to print for next week, and your finished model. Okay? That's what's due.
The original, the red one you get, and then that's it.
The first one I did before this one. So 2 views for printing, and then your finished model, and then bring your study model in, 1 or 2, whatever you have.
What about the 600 PC?
We're not going to include those on here. Okay?